Hey everybody, it's Miss Limer. I'm here right now to talk to y'all about personal financial literacy. So personal financial literacy is all about money. It's not so much about adding and subtracting money. It's more about money concepts and thinking about money and how we should spend and save and how we make our money. So we're going to start with a list of vocabulary words. There's a lot of vocabulary in personal financial literacy. So I'm just going to quickly go through the vocabulary words and you'll hear me say these again within each little mini part of this video. So the first word on our vocabulary is income. Income is money that you make by doing a job. It's money coming in. So income is money coming in. Then we have credit. Credit is borrowing money, but when you borrow money, you have to pay it back with interest, and usually you use a credit card. Interest. Interest is money that you pay to a lender in exchange for borrowing money. Saving is putting money away to use in case of an emergency or to use in the future. Needs are things needed for survival, so basic things you need for survival. Wants are things that would be nice to have, but you don't really need them. Planned spending are things that you buy each month. They are expected expenses. You know you're going to spend that money every month. Unplanned spending are things that you have to spend money on that are not expected. They are unexpected. Charitable giving is donating your money, and I forgot to add, or your time to those who are in need. Labor is working a job. Scarcity is when there is not a lot of something, so it's scarce, and the cost is high. And availability is when there is a lot of something and the cost is lower. So that's the vocabulary that you're going to hear throughout this lesson. All right, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is planned and unplanned spending. And this has a lot to go with needs and wants. So let's talk about needs and wants real quick. Needs are things that you absolutely need to live, like food, water, shelter, clothing, things like that. You need these things. Otherwise, you can't survive. Wants are things that you might like to have, like an Xbox or a big screen TV or candy, a soda. Those are things that you don't necessarily need to survive, but would be really nice to have, right? So going along with that is planned and unplanned spending. So the first thing we'll talk about is planned spending. So planned spending is spending that you know that you're going to do every single month. So things like bills. Adults have a lot of bills. They have to pay for their cell phones so that they can get in contact with people, their house so that you have a place to live, their car, right? They have other things like car insurance, health insurance to make sure that you stay healthy and can go to the doctor when you need to. So those are all bills that they get in the mail every single month, okay? Food and needs, those are also planned expenses. You know you're going to need food every month or every week, so parents plan to have that in their budget. And a budget is something that it's a list of things that they know they're going to have to buy. Kids and pets, so if you have kids and pets, you know those kids and pets are going to need to be fed, right? And the kids are going to need clothes and things like that, and the pets are going to need food and toys. So those are things that you know you're going to have to spend money on every month. And college is a really big planned expense. Your parents might have already started saving for your college. So that's something that they know in the future they're going to have to spend money on. That's a planned expense. On the other side of that, we've got unplanned expenses. Unplanned expenses are things that happen that you don't expect. So like a car accident. Nobody wakes up and says, I'm going to get in a car accident today, right? That's something that's unexpected and unplanned. If you get in a car accident, you're going to have to get your car fixed. Your insurance is going to go up. There's costs that are associated with car accidents. Broken bones. If you break a bone, where do you have to go? The hospital, right? And you have medical bills. So that's another unplanned expense. Tickets. If you get pulled over for speeding, that's an unplanned expense. And emergencies. So emergencies might be anything from the broken bone to the car accident to something in your house catches on fire and you have to replace it. Lots of emergencies can fall under this. The thing about unplanned spending is that you might have to use credit. So if people don't save money and have a good savings account, they might have to use credit in order to pay for those things. So that's the next thing that we're going to talk about is credit. Credit is when you use one of these, and I'm sure you've seen one of these. There's two different types of cards. There's a debit card and there's a credit card, right? So when you use a credit card, you are borrowing money from a lender, okay? A lender is someone who loans you money. So let's say I get in a car accident and I have to pay to get my car fixed, and I don't have $5,000 to get my car fixed. What do? I use my credit card to pay for that, and then I can pay it back later. Now, the thing about credit is that you have to pay it back with interest. Interest is extra money that you pay as kind of a thank you to that lender for letting you borrow their money, right? So let's say I have to borrow $5,000 for my car to get fixed, but then when I pay it back, I end up having to pay $5,800. Well, that extra $800 is a thank you for letting me borrow your money when I didn't have enough, right? Because we've always got to say thank you. So that interest is a thank you to the lender. There are other things that you can do to borrow money when you have an unexpected expense. You can take out a loan. A loan is where you go somewhere and you get money from a lender. You also have to pay that back with interest. A loan is kind of like using a credit card, okay? Parents use credit when they make big purchases. So for example, when I bought my car, I had to use credit because my car cost $35,000. Do you think I had $35,000 laying around? I did not. So what I had to do is I had to apply for a loan. A loan is where you can borrow money. So I said, I'm a teacher and I need a new car. Please let me borrow $35,000. I had to fill out an application. I had to tell them how much money I make. And they looked at that application and they said, okay, Ms. Limer, you can borrow $35,000 for your car. Now, by the time I pay that loan back, I might end up paying $37,000 or $38,000 for that loan. That extra money on top of it is the interest. Remember that. Thank you for letting me borrow your money, right? So that's all about credit, okay? Now, there's another thing that you can do is your debit card. Now, your debit card is money that you have in your bank, okay? So the difference between credit and debit is that debit card is the money that you have. You have all of that money in your account. So if I have access to $2,000 on here, that's all I can spend. I can only spend $2,000. If I have access to a credit card, I can spend up to my limit, right? Now, remember, this has to be paid back with interest. If you spend money on your debit card or from your bank account, you don't have to pay it back with interest because it's already your money. So this is where your money might go when you get an income. So Ms. Limer's a teacher, right? I get paid to teach kids and all of my money goes onto my debit card. It goes in the bank and then I can get to it from my debit card, right? So that's my money to spend. Is credit my money to spend? No, I'm borrowing this money and it needs to be paid back with interest. All right, so that's enough for credit and loans and interest and things like that. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is scarcity and availability. Now, these are words that you've heard, but they're kind of hard concepts to understand because as kids, we don't really buy a whole lot of stuff, right? So we don't really know about if there's more of something, the price is low, and if there's less of something, the price is high. So we're going to talk about two words, scarcity and availability. First one we're going to talk about is scarcity. When scarcity is happening, there's low availability on something. So a good example right now with all of the coronavirus stuff happening is toilet paper is very scarce. There's not much availability. So that means the cost could go up. So scarcity is when something is hard to find. It might be rare, okay? Many people may want that item, so that's why it's hard to find. And the cost is high. Okay, so for example, a few years ago around Christmas time, Hatchimals was a really, really exciting toy that everybody wanted. And so Hatchimals became a really, really big thing. And so everybody wanted to buy one. They were really hard to find. And then what toy stores started doing was they started making the price go up. So when that price started to go up, less people started buying them, right? Which then causes us into availability. Availability is when there are a lot of something and the cost goes down. So availability is when something is very easy to find, not many people might want it, and the cost is low. So a really good example of that is fruit. So when fruit is in season, that means it's a really good time of year for the fruit to grow. It's very available. It's very easy to find. For example, pomegranates. I don't know if you've ever had a pomegranate, but they're delicious. And certain times of the year, they're very easy to find and they're kind of cheap. Other times of the year, they're very hard to find and they're kind of expensive. So when pomegranates or oranges or apples or bananas are in season, they're very available and the price is lower. When they're not in season, they're kind of harder to find. And when you do find them, the price is going to be higher. All right. Another thing we're going to talk about is spending, saving, and charitable giving. So you know that you can save your money. Things that we might save our money for are big purchases like a car or a house, or let's say you want a new TV or a new phone. Those are things that you might save your money for. The most important thing that you need to save your money for is college, right? College is a very big expense, and saving money for college is one of the best ways that you can put your money aside. When we save our money, it goes into a savings account, okay? A savings account is where you can put your money that it will be safe. Kids usually use piggy banks, but think about it. Piggy banks aren't the safest option for your money. So when you become a little bit older, it's very smart to put your money into a savings account in a bank because they'll keep your money safe. On the opposite of that is spending your money. So you know you have to spend your money on needs. And a lot of the time people spend their money on wants, right? When you spend your money on wants and needs, you have to be careful that you don't spend too much money. Because let's say you're using your debit card and this is money that is yours, that you have, your debit card, okay? Let's say you're using your debit card to buy things and you only have $1,000 on your debit card. If you spend over that amount, the bank is going to get mad at you, right? They're going to charge you money for spending too much. So when you're spending with your needs and your wants, you have to be careful to stay within a budget, the money that you have available to you. Okay. Another way you can spend your money or spend your time is through charitable giving or donating. There's always people in need and companies that need help. So a great way to donate your time and money is to give to those in need. So that's another expense, and that could be a planned expense. You know, you donate money every month. Or it could be an unplanned expense. Maybe someone asks you for a donation and you say, well, I wasn't planning on this, but I have the money to give, so I'm going to go ahead and donate that. All right. The last thing that we're going to talk about is human capital. So human capital are the things that make you important to a company or the person who's going to hire you. So human capital are the skills and education that make a worker valuable. And I'm not talking about valuable like money. I'm talking about valuable like you're going to do a good job. So the things that they take into consideration are skills. What are you good at? Experience. What kind of experience do you have with this job? Training. How much training have you had? And education. Did you go to college? Right? Some jobs require more training and education than others, right? So the human capital are all of the things. So for a veterinarian, for example, our skills are she's good at caring for animals. She knows how to use doctor tools and she has good people skills. Her education was she has a college degree and she went to veterinarian school. Her training was she trained on all types of animals. And her experience, she did dog sitting, she's done surgeries, and she volunteered at the animal shelter. So all of these things make her valuable. So personal financial literacy is all about being smart with your money.